For over the last year or so, really, my main focus has been making the developer experience in 8.5 and the CMS platform as a whole lot better. So when we designed the new Framework API, we had three guiding principles: simplicity, consistency, and discoverability. Simplicity is pretty simple. It needs to be simple. It shouldn't be rocket science to develop on a CMS platform. Developers of all skill levels should be able to do so. Consistency was really important because once you use one API, you should know how to use all the APIs. If you use Content Manager to retrieve a list of content, you should know how to use User Manager to retrieve a list of users. And the same goes for taxonomy and friends and activity streams and all the stuff that the CMS platform encompasses. Discoverability is a big, important guiding principle as well, because a lot of people don't use documentation. They basically say, I need to get some content, and they dive right into the API. At least that's what I do anyway. If I need to go get a file, I type in system.io.file and start looking to see how I do it. I don't look at documentation. So discoverability is a very important feature. Someone should be able to look at the Content Manager API and realize pretty straightforward, how do I add a piece of content? How do I get a piece of content? How do I get a list of content? So those were our guiding principles in making the CMS platform as best we could. The Framework API is our new API for the CMS. It's our new platform for all things that we're going to build going forward. There's the Framework APIs, which are all of our API methods, and there's the Framework UI, which in the future will contain all of our new server controls. In 8.5 will contain our new Ektron UI controls, and I think that's it going forward. Our services are in there as well. We also have a new web service layer that I can talk about a little bit later. But all of our old APIs will be deprecated. They'll still be supported going forward. You don't have to worry about any legacy code not working. Our old APIs will be there. They'll just be deprecated, and at some point in the distant future, we'll probably stop supporting them. But as of right now, the Framework API is our API going forward. The best thing about the Framework API is that it was for developers. I'm a developer. I'm a software engineer. I build websites. I know how hard it can be, and it shouldn't be hard. You should be able to build an Ektron website pretty quickly. A designer should be able to come to you with a simple mock-up, hand it to you, and you should be able to have a working page in less than a day. It shouldn't take a long time to futz around with controls and trying to get your markup correct and trying to figure out where to get this data from. It should just be easy. The best thing I think about the new Framework APIs is not only the results, but the process we went through in developing them. Basically what we did was follow a test-driven development process. The first thing I did was look at all of our existing APIs and say, what do we need in a new API? So for instance, we look at content. What do I need in a content manager? First of all, obviously we need to add content, we need to update content, we need to delete content. You need to get a single piece of content, you need to get a list of content. For the most part, that's all you really need. So if you look at all of our APIs, they all have those 5 basic methods: add, update, delete, get item, get list. So what we do is we said, okay, we have content. How do we go about doing it? So what we did was we created our interface for iContent Manager, and then we wrote unit tests. We said, okay, how do I use it? If it didn't work, we rewrote it. And we just did that over and over again until it felt right, and then we moved on to the next one. How do I get folders? We'd write unit tests until it felt right, and then we moved on. At the end of the day, we had a set of interfaces that we knew worked, we knew were intuitive, we knew they were discoverable, and we knew they were consistent. Once those interfaces were done, then we handed them off to our team and started implementing them. Another great thing about the Framework API project was that we got to create a whole new API layer. The Ektron CMS is a very mature product. It's been around for 10 or 12 years. There's a lot of legacy code there that we couldn't just get rid of. What we wanted to do was build a nice facade on top of all that legacy code that was easy to use and consistent. So what we did was we created our interfaces that we knew we liked, and then we used the Microsoft Unity framework to inject the implementations of those interfaces. What that has allowed us to do in the future is basically break out all the implementations of those interfaces into a whole new tier if we want to. So basically we have our normal business logic implementation, then we also have a web service implementation for the Framework APIs. What this is going to allow people to do is develop a site using strictly the Framework APIs, and then later on, if they want to, simply switch their config file, and now all of a sudden be in a 3-tier environment where they have a web server that's running just their presentation code, and then an app server that's running the actual CMS. And those two would communicate using web services, using the Microsoft.NET WCF framework, and the developer would never even need to know. It would just work. The best thing about injecting our business logic is that we can create, or we have created, a web service implementation that's going to allow you to basically build your website using the Framework API and then inject web services as your implementation. This is going to basically allow you to create a 3-tier architecture. The three-tier architecture is great because you can have as many display servers as you want, just displaying and serving up your web page, which are then going to talk to as many app servers as you want that are actually going to be running the CMS and supplying your business logic. The great thing about three-tier is it's going to allow our enterprise customers that have really large websites with lots of customers, lots of hits a day, to really scale their implementation. They can have as many web servers as they want, as many app servers as they want, and as many database servers as they want. And since the business logic is injected, they could actually even add a caching server if they wanted to. So they could have a web server talking to a caching server, which talk to the app server, which is going to really allow their website to scale dramatically.